Hey campers, it's time for a trip down memory lane while we detail my weird canvas. I told you guys I started working on pieces like this back when I was in high school, basically to kill time in class because I didn't want to take notes. So I figured while I'm rushing through all of this at great speeds, I could tell you guys a little bit about how I was in school. Now, I already told you guys I was not a great student. I didn't like to take notes. I liked to doodle in my books. I didn't like to go to the important classes like math and science and English. I liked my electives. I loved art, but it wasn't my first passion. My first passion was actually telecommunications. The TV studio at the school gave me many opportunities to pursue a career that interested me because it was exciting and it was new. It wasn't something that I was used to seeing in a school setting. I moved to my hometown at age 11, and prior to that, I lived in northern New Jersey, where it was more of an urban area. We didn't do a whole lot of community outreach in that neighborhood. There wasn't a whole lot of after school programs that kids could get involved in and get excited for to keep themselves out of trouble. I mean, it was the late 90s in northern New Jersey. So when we moved down here and I found the teacher that was in charge of the studio, Mr. Smith, I showed him that I was very interested in becoming part of the program he had there. And he was welcoming to all students, so he was excited to have me on. He even went so far, once I became acclimated with the program and how it worked, he got my homeroom changed. And my new homeroom was now the TV studio. I became part of the morning news crew. I ran their video prompter and did all of the over-shoulder graphics every morning until another opportunity arose. The school has a trip every year that they send students from the TV production class to Florida to go to Universal Studios. This is an opportunity for students to work with people at different companies down in the film district that are looking for some free labor / give out some free on-job experience. Being a freshman in high school, I was lucky enough to be selected to go on this trip, and we ended up working with HBO for the weekend for a free preview weekend. Now, for you youngins watching this that don't know what I'm talking about, HBO, that program channel you watch, home box office, they charge a premium, which means you pay for them monthly for their services. And back in the good old day, they used to give you free weekends with a very famous actor from back in the day to try and convince you to purchase their services. My high school class was lucky enough to be able to run cameras, run audio cables, hook up microphones, and do regular gaffing work on the background set inside Universal Studios after hours. And we got to gain that on-job experience. This trip had a lot of twists and turns. Students taking off to go into the theme park to ride rides, i.e. myself and some friends. There was also a late night trip where we convinced the teachers to take us to Hooters to get food because it was one of the only establishments open in Orlando, Florida at 11:45 at night. So if you can imagine a school administrator in her late 50s, early 60s, and two high school teachers that were also in their early 50s, taking a mixed group, male and female, students ranging from freshman year to senior year of high school, to Hooters at quarter to midnight at night in Florida. We didn't have Uber back then either, so we all showed up in 5 taxis. Mr. Smith, Ms. Mitchell, and Dr. Bob chose a table far away from the students. And by far away, I mean they were literally 10 feet away from us, but we all sat on our own. The teachers sensed the faux pas that they had stepped into as soon as they walked into the door. And of course, the boys, we made them regret their choice almost instantly when the waitress and hostesses walked up and greeted us at the door. Couldn't tell you about my food, but the service was fantastic because I was a 15-year-old kid and there was a girl in a tight white shirt giving me a burger that I really didn't care about. We learned a lot about ourselves on that trip because, well, they took a bunch of students that didn't hang out, even though we had a lot of the same classes. And you put us on a plane and sent us to another state where we only knew each other for like a week. Friendships formed. I think we even had a couple relationships that popped off on that little trip. There was definitely at least 2 regrettable hookups, neither of which were mine. Sadly, about a year after that trip, the end of my sophomore year, Mr. Smith decided he was going to go to a new school that was focused on telecommunications and their entire curriculum geared towards stage production. His replacement was no replacement, to say the least. She decided that we don't need to use the equipment that we have been trained on for the last 3 years. Instead, we would be learning from books. That sadly pushed me out of my favorite place, the TV studio, where I spent many, many hours, somewhere in the range of 110 hours per marking period. The program really wasn't the same after Mr. Smith left. However, my senior year, I did get approached by the school's principal because the teacher that was in charge did not do a very good job of finding someone to put together the senior project. So, me and 2 of my other dropout friends, and by dropout I mean we all dropped out of the TV class, saved the day because we knew how to use the editing software and we knew how to run the studio, and we did a 6-hour bender overnight before graduation to put together the graduation video. It truly was one of the best points of my high school career because the teacher told me I had to leave because she was going home for the day, and the high school principal told her he would take full responsibility for the studio and the students that were still in it, and that he could go home. And when she said she couldn't do that, he said, "I just told you to go home." So that's about all the time we have for today's trip down memory lane. If you guys want to know more about the stuff I've done or the stupid adventures I've had in my life, hit that subscribe button. Follow me. Check me out on other platforms. I tell stories all the time. Until then, art to your heart. I'm J-Dubs Arts, and I'm out of here.